Welcome to Discover DeSoto, a podcast brought to you by the Patterson Foundation. In this podcast, you'll hear stories from all corners of DeSoto County through the lens of DeSoto County Ahead, from residents to community leaders and everyone in between. Join us as we discover DeSoto, one story at a time. Hi, and welcome to Discover DeSoto, a Beyond the Blog podcast brought to you by the Patterson Foundation. I'm Alicia Exantus, Community Engagement Specialist with the Patterson Foundation, and your host today. Joining me is Carol Mahler, longtime DeSoto County resident and historian, and we'll be diving into the impact that you are making in DeSoto County through the lens of DeSoto County Ahead and other TPF initiatives. Carol Mahler, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Alicia. I'm so happy to be here.
We're so glad to have you. Carol, usually my first question is, how long have you been in DeSoto County and what brought you here? But you're a very unique guest. You were our very first DeSoto County Community Champion Spotlight in August of 2024 in our DeSoto Digest newsletter. So I actually read there how long you've been in DeSoto County. It said about 40 years.
That's correct.
That's accurate. Okay, then tell me what brought you to DeSoto County. How'd you end up there?
Well, actually, love brought me there.
Oh.
So I fell in love and married a gentleman who owned property in DeSoto County. So that's how I moved there.
Okay, so you moved there 40 years ago. You must have really seen DeSoto change, I would assume.
Very much so.
Okay.
Very much so. And we have to remember that because we see change in the world doesn't mean in our lifetimes, doesn't mean that it hasn't always happened. So that's one of my jobs, I feel like, in life, is trying to keep everybody aware of the historical context. So say my 40 years is just a small portion of the long history that DeSoto County has had in Florida.
Great, Carol. We are going to do this podcast through the lens of DeSoto County Ahead, but also through the lens of a historian, you. So you're already answering questions that I've got in my head. What are your aspirations for DeSoto County? I'd love to hear them.
I have mixed aspirations for DeSoto County because, of course, part of me has deep nostalgia for the way that it used to be. Yes. When I see historic houses or historic buildings that have fallen into disrepair, have to be taken down, and I love the new houses that are replacing them, but still part of me is sad and yearning for those things that are lost and lost to history. So I have aspirations for DeSoto County that we can hold on to our history. DeSoto County has a really unique history, and since we're talking about the DeSoto County Ahead, I do have to remind everybody that once upon a time, they were trying to come up with promotional slogans for Arcadia. And so the one they came up with was Arcadia Always Ahead. And I happened to bring, this was during the time when Arcadia was known as the aviation city of Florida. So I happened to bring a man named Jack Payne, was the chairman of what was then called the Board of Trade, but is now known as the Chamber of Commerce. And he published a song called Arcadia, the aviation city of Florida. And this is the cover of the sheet music to that song. But I want you to notice down here in the corner, it says Arcadia Always Ahead, because that was the slogan back then. So I'm so happy that it's now called DeSoto County Ahead.
And you did not have any input with that.
Correct.
You just saw it and you were like, boom, here's the history connection.
Correct.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to make sure to post that.
Okay. So anyway, to get back to my aspirations,
yes,
to hold on to the history, because we do have this unique history. So the reason that Arcadia was known as the aviation city of Florida was because during World War I, there were 2 U.S. Army aviation training camps built just outside of Arcadia. 2, not just 1, 2. No place else in Florida had two.
Wow.
And they were built all over the place. Now remember, Kitty Hawk we only got off the ground. First flight, Kitty Hawk, 1903. This is 15 years later. So these gentlemen who were flying these planes didn't even wear parachutes. I mean, it was just these cloth and wooden airplanes with an internal combustion engine. To me, they're all heroes, every one of them.
Absolutely.
So Arcadia was so overjoyed, overwhelmed, ecstatic to have this honor. So that was why Jack Payne wrote that song. And they came up with that moniker for the city, Aviation City of Florida.
As an educator, I sit here in awe because I wrote my lesson plan for this, this podcast. I have all my questions here. I think I know how you'll answer. And you take me down a history lesson, learning things I've never heard of. Aviation, World War I, 1906. You're rattling off dates and facts. And this is amazing. This is awesome. This is why I was a little nervous to talk to you, because you are a gem, Carol Mahler. You are a wealth of knowledge that you know so many things about this area that not only do I not know, but people who live there don't know. So keep going. Anything you think of, anything you have, any fact that resonates with you, please stop me and spit it out. I'd love to hear it.
Sounds great.
Okay, perfect.
So Arcadia and DeSoto County grew up on agriculture. Mm-hmm. So primarily cattle and citrus. Although let me tell you, the what they called truck farming, what today we call row crops, was important too. So all of that is our history and our heritage. And I use those words because they don't mean the same thing. So in order to go forward in the future, I would like us to hold on to that agricultural heritage as much as we can. I know that there's a resurgence in the United States of the family farm, and I see that could happen in DeSoto County. In fact, we know that from reading the DeSoto Digest, that is a resurgence in DeSoto County as well. So I would like to see that. That's one of my aspirations for DeSoto County. Because our community has been a crossroads. Now, here's some facts that you probably don't know either.
Okay.
So our town, Arcadia, that's been the county seat of Arcadia since 1888, is bisected by a U.S. highway and a state road. And they're getting ready to 4-lane that state road. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so even more traffic and everything else. But when those decisions were made to bring those major roads through, the car only maxed out at 35 miles per hour. Nobody could go any faster. So it didn't really matter that it was going down Oak Street. So Oak Street was once State Road 70. Mm. And it was in 1960 and 61 that they took the side streets, which are Magnolia to the south and Hickory to the north, and they made those the one-ways. So Magnolia is 2 lanes, State Road 70 going west. Hickory is 2 lanes, State Road 70 going east. So they're under construction now because those roads were built as city streets, right? They weren't built for semi-traffic that they got from 1961 until they started they're still getting them today. I shouldn't even say until they started tearing them up, because there's still semis driving on those roads under construction.
Yeah.
So it's just, to me, a kind of a miracle that those roads held up as well as they did for all these years. So the state has undertaken this initiative to redo those roads. So one of the problems, of course, was the substructure. You know, back in the old days, we put this much down. Now they put this much down to support all that traffic weight. And in the old days, you can't really tell anymore because everything's all topsy-turvy and torn up. But there were places where the road had sunk because of the constant traffic, and there wasn't anything under there to support it. They're also, of course, doing all of the underground utilities. And I will tell you, this is another one of my aspirations for DeSoto County, and that is I want to praise and admire the Arcadia City Council for undertaking the infrastructure projects that they have to improve the city. For too many years, the 3 creeks that run under the city of Arcadia have provided stormwater drainage, and now we're getting actual real stormwater drainage, and that was why downtown often flooded, many roads often flooded. So and the Historical Society has photographs from like 1915 when they were putting in the pipes, the first water pipes and sewer pipes and so forth. They're digging those up, clay pipes. And clay pipes were the state of the art at the time, but over time, they allow water to leak into them. And so that was one of the reasons that our city water and sewer system was struggling so much, was because of that infiltration. And there are other technical names for it, but I'm just going to go with that very easy explanation. So they're digging those things up and replacing them with modern pipes and making the system more efficient and better for the environment as well. So one of my aspirations for the city of Arcadia and DeSoto County as a whole is that we continue on with this so that we invest in our infrastructure and the things that people need to have just the basic things in life, clean water, clean air, a safe place to live, all of those things, that we keep investing in those things for our people. And because of that, our community is a really wonderful, friendly community, as far as I'm concerned. And I've heard other people say this as well. To go anywhere in the grocery store, I meet people that I know. Walking down Main Street, I see people that I know. And even if I don't know them, I greet them, and people are friendly. So that's another one of my aspirations for DeSoto County, that we keep that real strong sense of community. Oh, and also while we're talking about community, another one of my aspirations is, so we just, the best word is commemorated the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Charlie, which was a horrendous storm and did a massive amount of damage, especially because nobody was prepared for it. People have said to me, Hurricane Ian was worse than Hurricane Charlie. And I feel that they were two completely different storms, the way they moved and the way they worked and what they did and the damage that they caused and so forth. But in some ways, we were better prepared for Ian, in some ways, because we'd been through it before. And there were other intervening hurricanes, and don't want to discount or not take into consideration those ones. Hurricane Irma, for example, that did some downtown damage, very, very bad. But anyway, after Hurricane Charlie, we had an outpouring from everywhere else. People came in to help, but our own people really embraced and tried to help each other. And I think that what my aspiration is to keep that sense of let's help each other. And I think that every storm, this is kind of a horrible thing to say, but every storm that comes, renews that sense that we're going to help each other, and also reach out to other communities. This is a fact that not everybody may know, but our own county administrator, Mandy Hines, when the terrible hurricanes hit the Panhandle county, she went up there and assisted them, having been through this, all these things before. It's a real challenge for a county.
Yeah. Yes, and
all that.
We hear that a lot about DeSoto. Anytime there's a call to action, boom, DeSoto residents respond in a way that a lot of other towns or other counties don't. So that is something we hear. I have to tell you, very interesting perspective you have on the infrastructure, because everyone I talk to, that's usually the first complaint. Oh my gosh, the roads, they're tearing everything up, da, da, da. But you bring a very interesting perspective of the history. These roads were built for cars or vehicles that go 30 miles per hour. Now it's one of our main ways to get from that side of the state to this side of the state. So it is so important for that infrastructure, that construction to take place. And it kind of gives you peace of mind. Well, it probably makes you a little less frustrated in the car knowing it has to be done for the safety and the well-being of residents of DeSoto County. So I love how your aspirations, your perspective, it's so positive, which is going to take me to 2022. That is when Sherry Courier and the initiative Aspirations to Action came into DeSoto County. And they said, oh, hi, we're here. We'd like to do some community conversations, and we'd like to hear your aspirations. Now, I'm almost 100% sure, Carol, that you were in one of those meetings talking about your aspirations. Do you recall where it was, when it was, or were you there?
I don't remember, and I'll just be honest. I just don't remember. I I do a lot of things.
Yes. I think you were. I'll have to ask Sherry.
Yeah.
But tell me this, if you weren't in those conversations, did you hear about them?
Oh,
did
sure.
you start catching wind of, there's this woman, Sherry Courier, the Patterson Foundation, they're here, they're asking questions. So did you start hearing that in the community?
Of course. And of course, people said, what does it matter? We've done this before. People have asked us what we want and we've told them and nothing's happened about it. And I was thinking about this morning as I was driving into Sarasota, and I thought, I am really thrilled that the Patterson Foundation and Sherry have said, we're going to help you, but you make the decisions. You decide how it's going to go. I happen to have graduated from New College of Florida back when the thing that we lived by was, in the final analysis, each student is responsible for his or her own education. Sorry, I'm tearing up just a little bit.
Take your time.
Anyway, I love that the Patterson Foundation is doing that with the city and the county, so that we are responsible in the final analysis for what happens to us and our community.
Yes, you are correct. That is what we are about, not arriving with the answer. And that can be very hard for others to hear and trust us when we say it. But as you've seen through this process, change happens at the speed of trust. We've been there for 3 years, and we are seeing some momentum. We are seeing some small wins. We are seeing some people in the community saying, you can trust them. You should go to the large event, or you should talk to them so that there could be, I'm jumping ahead, but a capital report, a public capital report. I would like to say that hearing you talk about your aspirations really makes me think of those 8 themes. You pull out a lot of things here, but a reoccurring theme that we heard in the conversations with the community, and it is one that you will see and read about in that Harwood Public Capital Report, is how DeSoto is a small, tight-knit community. I heard you talk about the grocery store. That's definitely something we hear. Also, I've had individuals tell me if their child doesn't behave, they know before that kid gets home what happened. So it's tight-knit in that way. It's what people admire most about DeSoto County. At the same time, people do realize that there are silos that exist, and there needs to be a bridge that gaps that existence between people and organizations in ways that foster wide participation around shared quality of life aspirations. So to support the community in building what we at TPF called connective tissue or relationships in ways that connect that with the aspirations that we heard, TPF Aspirations to Action initiative came together, and we hosted the first ever DeSoto County Ahead event in October of 2023. Now, I know you were at that event. I saw your table. What did you think when you walked in? You were like, okay, there's this event in the Turner Center. We know you were there as an exhibitor. What were you thinking? What was going through your head at that time?
Well, I was excited of course, I'm always excited to share the history of DeSoto County with everybody and the mission of the Historical Society. So that was wonderful. But I was excited also to see other organizations there and to see how we might be able to work together and to accomplish things. And of course, I was excited to hear about what the initiatives, what people had to say on the stage.
Yes, the exhibitor part of the event was really special. We had exhibitors actually walk around from booth to booth, as well as community members who came in to participate. But we listened. We sent out a survey and we heard from exhibitors. They wanted more time to speak and they wanted more exhibitors. So we heard that. We also heard a call for action in regards to the newsletter. So I know you're aware. I know you've contributed so much. The DeSoto County Digest was born after that event. So a lot came out of that. But we then went into the 2025 event. It was supposed to be 2024, but the hurricanes, we got hit back to back to back. So in January of 2025, we did hold the second event, DeSoto County Ahead. And you walk in, the room is beautifully decorated with the white ceiling covering it. We had more exhibitors than ever. I thought the energy level was just really great. Was this like any event you've ever been to, these DeSoto County events?
I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me more. Did you meet even more exhibitors or more organizations while there, or was there any special connection you made or left with?
I don't think I necessarily made a special connection at that particular event, but I enjoyed talking with everybody. And we did a little guessing game. So I brought some fun artifacts from the museum, some unusual things. And our president, Adrian Klein, was there with me, and we sort of asked people to guess. And it was a fun thing to do. And it was really fun to see people's reactions to guessing. I appreciate how people react when you ask them that.
Yes, and I love that engagement piece. That is so fun to have a booth where others can come and have fun. But you brought up the museum. We can't skirt by that. Please tell me more. Tell me about the museum, the name, where it's located. How could others go? What's special about the museum?
Well, the John Morgan Ingraham House Museum is a gem, a hidden gem, let's say, because not very many people know about it. I did bring our little brochure. This is available all throughout DeSoto County and other places. But so this was a house that was built in the late 1800s, just what we call a Florida cracker house. It was a very simple wooden house. So John Morgan Ingraham, he was called Morgan.
Okay.
So that's why we include his middle name in there, because when he was alive, he was known as Morgan. His granddaughter, and I'll mention her again, she always wanted to have his full name, so we abided by that. So he and his wife Maud bought the house in 1919, and he lived there until his death in 1980. He was honored before he also served 2 terms in the Florida State Legislature as our representative of DeSoto County. And before his death, he was honored as one of the longest lived legislators by the legislature. So that was pretty fun. He was a local entrepreneur. He had what he called a seed store. So this is like what we call today, we have, for example, Smith's Ranch and Garden, and that kind of a store where you could go and buy seeds and fertilizer and garden implements and so on and so forth. So he had his seed house, which is what he called it, downtown. And then he decided that he had enough property that he could build it right next to his house. So that was his commute in the morning. He got up and walked next door and sold seed and fertilizer and everything else next door. Pretty easy commute, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So after he passed away, his granddaughter. So he and Maud had 3 children. Augusta was their oldest daughter, and this is just a note that I'm very proud of. Mrs. John Morgan Ingraham, as she signed every page, took the 1920 U.S. Census in Arcadia. Yeah, she took what at that time it was called West Arcadia and East Arcadia, of course, bisected by that U.S. highway. And she did take the census for that right after. So that would be like the year after they moved there. Pretty cool, and pretty cool that she was the census taker. But her young daughter, Augusta, passed away just about 2 weeks after she finished taking the census. And we don't really know, I haven't discovered the cause of death. So that left John Jr., so they had a son named John Jr., who's also recorded in that 1920 census, and their youngest daughter, Grace, had not yet been born. So John gets married, John Jr. gets married, and then his daughter, so Mr. Morgan Ingram's granddaughter, Kathleen Coons, she, after her grandfather dies, she's allowed to go in the house and select anything she would like and, just get the things out of it. So she's visited many times with her father. They lived in Miami. And, she has a pretty strong connection to the house. So it's used as rental property and ends up being owned by the Pipkin family. And in 2002, they donated to the Historical Society. So it's in pretty rough shape, but can be restored. So the Historical Society raised money in the community. We had our volunteers working on it. They pretty much got the restoration almost ready for a grand opening. We were very close. And then Hurricane Charlie hit. in August of 2004. And it pushed the house. So these Florida cracker houses sit on these little piers up off the ground, primarily because Florida was, before any drainage, Florida was very wet. So this style of architecture developed because you didn't want to build a wood building on a wet ground. And there wasn't any stone to build stone foundations. So they just made these little brick pilings or piers, and that's what they built the house on. They also got the benefit of the air circulating underneath, which helped to keep the house cool as well. And let me tell you, it was a favorite place for the family pets to hang out under those houses. It was cool under there in the hot summers. Anyway, it pushed the house off the piers, broke it in half, the chimney was knocked down, and most of the roof was torn off. So it pretty much, the society was pretty much ready to give up on it. We said, we can't, there's no way for us to bring this back. And so Miss Kathleen Ingram Coons came over, and she lived in Jupiter at the time. She's just passed away. So I'm sorry she's gone. But she came over and she said, I think we could get some money from the state of Florida to restore this museum. And we said, okay, if you want to do it, we'll support you. So she did. She started writing grants, and her grants were phenomenal. I don't know if you know how the Division of Historical Resources does their historic grants programs, but they rank them every year. And I believe she was ranked in the top 10, if not the top 1, every year she wrote the grant. So she wrote 4 grants over 4 years. We received a total of $158,000, and we put that building back together.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Being resilient. Here we go again, a call to action. She did not at the time live in DeSoto, yet her connection and that feeling I'm sure she got every time she walked in DeSoto, she was like, no, we can do this. And I like that you said that. She said, we can do this. We can restore it. She knew her part, and then she knew who to get the money, whose hands to get the money in to make sure that it was restored. So you've been there that whole time. You've seen it get restored, then the hurricane, and then back up and running.
Yes. Okay. So we did get a small grant from the Mosaic Company Foundation, and that helped us to put the air conditioning in. And we actually had a kind of a fight about the air conditioning because people said Mr. Ingram never had air conditioning in that house. And my argument was, with all those historic artifacts in there, we have to protect them. Mm-hmm. So we've set up the house so it looks like a Florida cracker house would have looked, sort of. And then we also, there's big tall walls. They had extra high ceilings so that all the heat would float up to the top and not bother the people down here where we're sitting and enjoying the weather and the breeze coming in from the windows. And so there was lots of places to display history. So in addition to setting up the house like it would have been when Mr. and Mrs. Ingram lived there, say between 1919 and 1939, about that window of history, it also has lots of exhibits about DeSoto County history and Arcadia history. So I'm very proud about that it's not just what they call a historic house recreation. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We had our I was going to go down another rabbit trail, but I'm going to leave that one. So we finally had our grand opening, and Kathleen Coons and her 2 daughters and all their children came over for it in January of 2014. So the museum has been open since January of 2014.
Okay, and if someone wants to go tour the museum, how do they do that? What are the hours?
Well, so they actually have to wait until September. Okay. Because we have decided, we had such poor attendance at the museum over the summers, and it really gives us a chance to clean and renew the exhibits and do some other work that's very important. Remember, I am going to say this, the DeSoto County Historical Society is an all-volunteer organization. That means no matter how many hours we give, nobody's paying us. Mm-hmm. So things don't necessarily always get done in a timely fashion. So that time in the summer gives us time to renew it. So September 4th, mark your calendar.
Okay.
It's a Thursday, so we're usually open on Thursdays 9 to 1 in the early part of the day. And then on 2nd and 4th Saturdays, we're also open. So between September and May, we usually have those hours.
Okay, great. I know the Historical Society has their own newsletter, so you will make sure to publish that there. But we will as well in DeSoto Digest. We'll make sure to have September 4th on there for residents and even people who do not live in DeSoto but would like to learn more, stop on by. I did read your newsletter, and there was a very big special, I'm going to say announcement about a birthday. I'd love if you'd let us know.
It must be the county's birthday.
I know. How many years?
Oh, 138, did I guess right?
You got it.
Yeah, so 1887. So, and that's one of the other things I was thinking about as I was driving across what we call the Myakka Prairie from Arcadia to Sarasota today. We were once all pretty connected. So we were all part of Manatee County. Manatee County was actually founded in 1855 and contained the counties that are today Charlotte, DeSoto, Glades, Hardy, Highlands, Manatee, and Sarasota. That is a huge county.
Yeah.
It went from the Gulf of Mexico to Lake Okeechobee. It went from Polk County south to the Caloosahatchee River. That's huge. So in 1887, they actually divided off what they called the eastern part of the county. It was the eastern 2/3. If you look at the landmass, Sarasota and Manatee counties do not equal the rest of what was then old DeSoto County, which was later divided into 5 counties. But that was the division done in 1887. It was done on May 19th, 1887. So that's the birthday that's coming up.
Okay. Well,
yeah. So
still really cool.
Well, I will tell you for the centennial anniversary, which was back in 1987. So Arcadia was incorporated first as a town in 1886. We were still part of Manatee County then. So it was actually founded as in Manatee County. And then DeSoto County was founded in 1887. So for the centennial of those foundings, the city and the county got together and did a big celebration. So they started in December of 1986 and went all the way through 1987. So huge celebration for that anniversary.
Okay, so we might have to wait till number 200 and then...
Or maybe 150.
Okay.
We'll see.
Oh my goodness, I don't know why I was thinking 180 in my head. Okay, maybe 150.
Maybe 150,
Okay.
Not too far away.
No, not too far. It'll be a big party. Jump in here. That capital report that I spoke about, one of the things touched on it was from the Patterson's perspective, we've seen how the community is growing. DeSoto County Suncoast Remake Learning Day events are proof of that. And I'd like to rattle off a couple of facts here. I'm going to be the historian, very brief historian. It did just end, but I'd like to point out that the Suncoast Remake Learning Days 2025 reached new heights with 380 events, which was an increase of 25% from last year. Each county was thriving with activity, but DeSoto County, the smallest county of TPF's 4 county focus areas, hosted 93 events, had 31 returning hosts, and had 17 new hosts. This is huge, big numbers. Residents are hearing about what's going on, different initiatives, different opportunities available. And I've got to tell you, Carol, part of me wonders if your ads on Facebook and your videos of your amazing interactive event played a role in that. So here we go. You're so passionate about talking about history, and I just love it. What was your event? Tell our audience what your event was for Remake Learning Day this year. What type of vehicle you rode around on, and the impact you made or what you heard from residents. I'd love to hear more about your big event.
Well, so we did on April 19th and April 26th, we did something called the I Spy DeSoto Magic School Bus. And so we actually got school buses from the school district, and I just want to say we had the most wonderful bus drivers. I admire bus drivers to begin with, but we got some really great ones for that event. And so we had what we called loosely a bingo card. So the idea behind bingo, it says BINGO, and then there are numbers. So we did DeSoto across the top, and so there were columns, and it was a little tricky because there were 2 O columns, but we just went with it. And then we made pictures of all the different, to represent all the different historical sites that people would go by. And then as we rode around, we talked about them. And the other bus guide was Tanya Wallace. And she is a navigator with the First 1,000 Days as part of the Links to Success group. And I want to thank Links to Success for partnering with the DeSoto County Historical Society in this event. So people really enjoyed hearing about the history. We heard that over and over from people, and the kids loved having something where they could mark what they were seeing. That was that hands-on learning was so important, even though it just seems, what do I want to say, easy for them to just color the little square or however they marked it. They really loved to do that. In fact, Tanya told me a story. She had a group of kids, and they were saying, "What's next? What's next? What are we going to get to mark next?" So that's really, really fun. From people that they were happy to understand why things are the way they are today because of the way they were originally, I guess is the best way to say it. And I'll give you an example. For example, we crossed Baker Street in Arcadia. And if you ever driven on Baker Street, it sits up higher than anything else around it. And there used to be a deep canal alongside it, and there still is in some places. It's mostly been channelized in a culvert. So why is that street so high up there, have such elevation compared to all the other streets around? It was because it was a railroad grade. So there was an old railroad that used to run out to one of those U.S. Army aviation training camps that I told you about. And that's where it went. It was right down what's today Baker Street.
Wow.
People loved learning that.
Yeah.
And understanding why this street sits up so much higher than everything else around it.
That is great. That is how I felt hearing you talk about the infrastructure right there. And the why behind it. And I don't know, it just it connects the dots. It makes sense. And it's also very fascinating. And it's fun to point out then to your friends and pass on those little tidbits of history.
I will tell you that man, his name is Dylan Tyndall. He's a member of the society. He loves taking pictures. So I invited him to come as a volunteer on the bus to take some pictures so we would have, because I'm too busy doing all the other things I'm doing to try to take pictures. I usually take pictures for the society. So he said yes. And he was so inspired by some of the history that he learned from listening to us talk, that he decided he was going to do a Facebook post about some of the history that we had talked about. And it warmed my heart that he was so inspired by that. Because again, when you do these events, yes, we get through it, we did it, it was a success, people enjoyed it. But then to see that it has some lasting impact, that is really heartwarming.
Yeah, I think that's the best part about history, in my opinion. It's that ripple effect, right?
Yes.
Carrying it on, watching it continue. That's awesome. I will have to look out for that Facebook post. And if we can get a hold of Dylan, I would love to show photos here on the screen for the viewers who decided to watch instead of listen, for them to see those photos of you on the bus having the best time.
Well, so there's a whole page in our newsletter.
Perfect.
Yes. So if you just flash that page of the newsletter, those are all Dylan's photos.
Oh, great. I was going to ask you who took those photos. Very good.
It does say that on the page.
Does it?
Our newsletter editor is very good about giving credit.
Fast forward to today. So I'm going to try to wrap up history and the Patterson Foundation and what's been going on. So I'm going to wrap up from late 1800s, early 1800s, early 1900s to since 2022. So I'm going to try to wrap this up a little bit. Fast forward to today, and DeSoto County Ahead continues to encourage community members to learn from each other, share their experiences, and collectively evolve to create a stronger, more resilient community. There's still so much to do and to come as we build the future with every voice and continue to work towards the aspirations many, including yourself, have shared with us. I know you have heard of Rich Harwood.
Yes.
And the impact him and his team are making in the community. He now has come all the way to DeSoto to train public innovators in your area. There are over 50 public innovators. You've named a couple of them, Tanya Wallace being one of them. And I know that they've created 4 action teams. Those action teams are now holding their own community conversations. And I just want to let you know, coming next is they will be looking for more community leaders who might want to be public innovators. So you might want to watch out for that email. You know, Sherry Corrier and her emails.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's what we're continuing to do. Go into communities, ask about aspirations, and focus on small wins. Any type of small win to help gain momentum gain trust to keep going. So we've had our events, we've had our DeSoto Digest. You even see how we've weaved other initiatives in, like SCGLR, which is that Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading, with those events that you took place in. But any small win you see or that you have seen, if you see anything that comes up with that DeSoto County ahead, I'd love if you'd email me, let me know. So much for everything you do in the community, Carol. You are amazing. Amazing.
You are welcome, and the community is welcome. And I do want to put out a thank you to the Patterson Foundation. Again, I really admire them for, as I said, asking us what we wanted and then supporting that.
Yes, yes. Ah, you're so wonderful. Well, listen, we can't wrap up yet because at the end of every Discover DeSoto podcast, I ask one question. I'm not sure if you're aware, but here goes nothing. Since this is Discover DeSoto, what's one thing you'd highlight about DeSoto County? Whether it's a hidden gem, like the museum you discussed earlier, a favorite place to shop, a local dining spot, or a unique outdoor activity, what's something everyone should make sure they do when they're in DeSoto County?
Well, Alicia, of course, I was going to say come to the museum.
Okay.
So I don't think I ever gave you the proper address. So 120 West Whiddon Street, Widdn Street. We do have a website, historicdesoto.org. There's information posted on there. So that
Perfect.
would be what I would say.
Wonderful. You did use the word gem when you were describing it. And I was like, I think that's perfect. September 4th will be the big day. We will see members of the community coming out to visit, and I love that there's air conditioning.
Yes.
I'm a big air conditioning girl. I do have one more question, actually. I know you said you weren't in the original community conversations. Were you in the roundtable conversations that Harwood did?
I was, for sure.
Okay, and those were the ones that then created that capital report.
Yes.
So,
and I will say that Sherry did reach out to me, and a lot of my photos, I told you I take a lot of photos, and a lot of my photos were used in that capital report. That was pretty fun as well.
Okay, and when you read it, did you notice things there that you were like, I said that was my voice?
Yes.
I saw, okay.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. That here's one more thing. In DeSoto, we do hear a lot from residents that they don't want to see change. They're afraid of that small town feel leaving or changing and not being there. They're nervous about the builders coming in and losing their sparkle, what makes them special. Anything for them who are resistant to talk to us or talk with public innovators because they don't want change?
Well, change is coming, whether we want it or not.
Yeah.
And we just have to. So my feeling is better to, instead of putting your head under the ground and saying it's not happening or I don't want it, we have to say, this is what's happening. How can we do it right? And, I've heard that people have said, I want to see smart growth or thoughtful growth or those kinds of things. That's facing that change and trying to make it something that we want. I was a little disheartened to hear a statistic that the Florida Department of Transportation presented at one of our county commission meetings, that there are already more people who live in DeSoto County and work elsewhere than there are people who live in DeSoto County and work in DeSoto County. And I've heard from so many people that we don't want our community to become that bedroom community. In some regard, it already is. So it's up to us. So if we say we don't want change, guess what we're getting? What's already there.
Yeah.
So to me, it would be better to say, okay, we don't really want this situation that we're already in, or maybe we're just on the verge of it. So what can we do about it? Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can work forward to do what we want.
Yeah, that you bring up a great point. Change is happening. So are we going to let the people who are busting through the doors, are we going to let them decide what change happens? Or are we, as residents of DeSoto County, going to step forward and we have a voice in that change?
And I think that's so important. So if there are things in our, I guess I'm going to speak, Alicia, to our audience at this point, but if there are things that you love about DeSoto County and about Arcadia and living there and so forth, and you would like to protect them or see them continue on or preserve them, just like I'm very passionate about the history, you have to step up and be part of these community conversations and these initiatives and changes, you have to do it. You can't just sit back and talk about it. You have to step up.
You're right. It's easier said than done. It can be hard. It can be scary, but you're right. Step up. If for some reason there is someone listening and they're thinking about something they are passionate about, go to the museum. Carol Mahler's email will be linked here. Reach out. There are people, there are leaders in your community willing to help you out and guide you along the way. I'm just a big believer in, if you have a passion and you want to make a difference, there are too many people love you to let you fail. That's what my mom says. Too many people love you to let you fail. And
that's wonderful.
That community of DeSoto, that's the vibe I get from DeSoto. Too many people love you to let you fail. If you can reach out, people will hold your hand along the way. And if you're passionate about it, I'm sure a team will come together to make it happen. So yeah, change is scary, but looking to have aspirational, driven change, that is definitely the goal here. So, well, Carol, thank you so much for joining me today. Please let listeners know where they can find you. I know you said the website for the Historical Society.
HistoricDeSoto.org. We have a Facebook page. I often write the posts, but I do not post them. So don't look for me on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyone that's a part of the Historical Society, they could always get in touch with you, or
the volunteers that do our Facebook page, they send me the material all the time, or if somebody wants to contact me or whatever.
Okay, great. So website or Facebook page. It was an absolute pleasure having you today. When we first decided to start this podcast, I want you to know your name was at the top of the list to have here. Thank you for driving all the way over in the rain to see me and to speak with us on this platform. It was an absolute honor to have you here. Listeners, to learn more about how the Patterson Foundation is strengthening efforts to collectively create a stronger, more resilient community, visit DeSotoCountyAhead.net or thepattersonfoundation.org. And to subscribe to our monthly DeSoto Digest newsletter, where we share these monthly podcasts and news from the DeSoto County residents. Scan the QR code on your screen. Well, that's all we've got for today. Please tune in next time to Discover DeSoto. Bye-bye.
Together, we can create a DeSoto where opportunity, pride, and connection thrive.